Alright, I'm going to be going through the practice test and showing you how to do each of the problems. So the first one, question 1, you just have to determine if the following are functions. To do this, you just have to do the vertical line test. The vertical line test is if you put a vertical line anywhere across the function, it can only cross one point of the function. So in f of x, if you draw a vertical line, it's always only crossing the blue squiggle at one point. So this would be a function. G of x is a line. That is a function. And then this one, h of x, if you drew a vertical line right here, it would pass through both the top and the bottom of the circle, which means it's not a function because it crossed at 2 points. Here at the bottom it says a relation is a function if the domain, the x's of the relation, do not repeat. So the domain can't repeat, you can't repeat x values. Alright, so f of v represents the amount in dollars raised at a fundraiser for a charity by V volunteers. So V is the number of volunteers and f of v is the dollar amount. So now we have to match the statement with the function. So 90 was raised by 4 volunteers, so that would be f of 4, because the v is 4, equals 90. $90. 12 volunteers earn m dollars. F of 12 equals m. 12 volunteers, 12 goes in for v, and it equals m. The amount in dollars raised by v volunteers is at least $12. So this one is the only one with a 12 in it, so it has to be that. And then here, 7% of the amount in dollars raised by 4 volunteers. 7% is 0.07, and 4 volunteers. This question, g of 7 equals, so we go to 7, we go up, it's 150. G of 1, we go to 1, and we go up, and that looks like it's going to be 25, halfway between 0 and 50. And then g of x equals 100 when x equals, so we'll go to 100 and we'll go across. Looks like x equals 4 is one of them. And you only have to choose one in this question. Alright, increasing, decreasing, or constant. So, from 1 to 2, that's going to be increasing, it's going up the slope. From 2 to 3, it's flat, so that would be constant. From 4 to 5, that's going down from left to right, so that would be decreasing. And then 8 to 9 is going down a lot, so that one will also be decreasing. Alright, we're going to use the graphs of the functions below to answer the questions. Which of the following statements are true? Okay, so we've got g of x in red and f of x in blue. F of x has a minimum value of -2. No, f of x fluctuates between 1 and -1. It never goes to -2. F of x has a relative minimum of -1. That's true. F of x goes down here. It's decreasing, decreasing. At -1, it starts increasing. So that would be true. G of x has a minimum of 3. G of x is the red one. It doesn't even have a minimum because it goes up and then comes back down. G of x has a maximum value of -1. Also not true. The maximum value is at -1, but the maximum value is 3. That's the output. F of x and g of x have the same number of y-intercepts. Y-intercepts is where it crosses the y-axis, and they both have 1. So that would be true. What are the maximum values from least to greatest? So g of x is the bigger one. So we go f of x is the least, and g of x is the greatest. Don't get confused by an h of x just randomly showing up there. If it wasn't ever in the question, then it's nothing that we have to worry about. Alright, the graph below describes the hiking elevation on Mr. Schwartz's trip, and it wants to know which of the following describes the domain of the function. all real numbers. It couldn't be all real numbers because the domain is your x values, your inputs, and you don't ever have negative time. And it looks like it stops after 18 minutes. All real numbers greater than or equal to 0. So that's closer. It's greater than 0, but it does stop at 18. All whole numbers greater than 1. This is continuous, so that won't work. All real numbers from 0 to 18. So all of our inputs, the domain, go from 0 to 18, so it will be D. Alright, Mr. Marischal has his own sub shop and sells 6-inch and 12-inch subs. If the cost of each full-size 12-inch sub is $8, the total revenue his business makes in a day can be modeled by the function R of S equals 8S. If S represents the total number of full subs sold in a day, determine the reasonable domain of the function. So the domain is the number of subs I sell. It can either be 6-inch or 12-inch. A 12-inch is a full, it's 1, and 6 is half of 12. So if I sell a 6-inch sub, that's selling half of a sub. So we have to go numbers up by 1/2. So we can sell 1/2 or 1 or 1.5 or 2, but we can't sell anything in between those numbers. So the answer to this is going to have to be C. Alright, this one, the average rate of change of f of x equals 5x squared minus x minus 7 from x equals 0 to x equals 3. So on this one, we're going to have to calculate f of 3 and f of 0. You will see here the work I did to calculate the average rate of change. I would recommend pausing if you want to look through this a little bit more. Anyway, the answer turned out to be 14. So we'll do 14. And we will keep going. Okay. So on the screen you're going to see the work I did to do g of x minus f of x. You'll see down here the answer is negative 2x to the 5th plus 5x to the 4th plus 6x cubed plus 16x. So we had negative 2x to the 5th. We would have had to use this plus 5x to the 4th, 5x 4 plus 6x cubed plus 16x. This one, it's really important that you type out x, you don't hit the multiplication sign as your x. If you do, it will count it wrong. And let's just check. Yes. Okay. Question 11. We want to find the perimeter and the area of the figure shown below. So the perimeter is the length around, and the area is how much is inside. And to find the perimeter, you add, and to find the area, you multiply. So as we add the sides around, we have 3x plus 1 plus 2x plus 7, that's 5x plus 8, and then we get 6x plus 8, and then there'll be 10x plus 8, which adds these sides together, but that's only halfway around this shape. This side will have 4x plus 1, and this side would be 6x plus 7, so in the end we get a perimeter of 20x plus 16. The area we have to multiply, so we'll have 3 different sections. The first section is this one that looks kind of like a square in the top. The second one is this bigger rectangle here. And then the one that you can't forget about is this smaller rectangle that would be on the right side. So x times 4x is 4x squared. We'll remember that. 3x plus 1 times 2x plus 7. Let's actually go ahead and show you how you would do that. You'll see that 3x plus 1 times 2x plus 7, you have to do the distributive property to get 6x squared plus 23x plus 7, and that gives you the area of this portion right here. Then 4x times 3x plus 1, this is 4x, and this is 3x plus 1, so you get the area of this bottom right portion as 12x squared plus 4x, and then the top portion I had already said was 4x squared, which is 4x times x. If you add all those together, you would get 22x squared plus 27x plus 7. So we'll click and drag 22x squared plus 27x plus 7 into the area, and we'll move on. 4x minus 3 squared. So this one is another distributive property question. When you do the multiplication, it's 16x squared minus 24x plus 9. Alright, polynomials are not closed under division. That's a fact that you need to remember. You cannot divide polynomials and still expect to get a polynomial as a result. Which of the following is not a polynomial? 3x squared minus 1.4x plus 7, that's fine. 2/3 is fine. Negative 5, x plus 7, x minus 9, that's fine. And here is 6x squared plus 3 over x plus 10. So this is not a polynomial, and that's because you're not allowed to have negative exponents on variables, and you're not allowed to divide by a variable, and here we have 3 divided by x. Melissa is shopping online. Her favorite store is having a 50% off sale where the total cost of the order before tax can be represented by S of x equal to 0.5x plus 10, where x is the original amount of everything she purchases online. When she cashes out her transaction online, she is then charged 10% tax and a transaction fee on what the sale price is modeled by the function t of x equals 1.1x plus 2. Write an equation that can be used to represent the total cost of her order including tax, c of x, where c of x is equal to t of s of x. All I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to plug in the s of x function in place of all of my x's in t of x. So I had 1.1x, so that x is replaced with the 0.5x plus 10, and then the plus 2 stays the same. And then when we do that multiplication, 1.1 times a half is 0.55x, 1.1 times 10 is 11 plus 2, and we can combine like terms to get 0.55x plus 13. And that'll be our answer that we will put right in here. 0.55x plus 13. Shouldn't put spaces. Okay. We have to match each transformation with its description. The first one, f of x minus 5, we have to make sure that we move the function down 5. Whenever it's on the outside, it goes vertical, so it's a vertical translation down 5 units. The inside is always horizontal, so f of x plus 5. You also have to remember the inside also does the opposite, so instead of going right, which is what you would expect, it goes to left. So it's a horizontal translation left, 5 units. 1/5 of f of x, so this is a multiplication, so that will be a stretch or a compression. In this case, since it's below 1, it's going to be a vertical compression. Now that it's on the inside, so we know it's going to be horizontal, and it's not a compression even though it's less than 1, because again, whatever's on the inside is opposite, flipped, so we would have a horizontal stretch by 5. And then finally, this one is the opposite. This would be the compression, horizontal factor of 1/5. Submit. Submit. And I missed one. So I see I'm a mistake. I should have had minus 6x cubed here. I accidentally